Welcome to One on One, the Daily Items digital program featuring Susquehanna Valley newsmakers interviewed by Daily Item reporters. Today's guest is Michael Dixon, the new Chief Inclusion and Diversity Officer at Susquehanna University, interviewed by Marcia Moore.
Hey you, it's time for Sunbury Motors to eat their remaining 2019 Ford leftovers. Choose from over 20 of the hot-selling Ford Escapes for as low as $17,585. Love compact SUVs? Sunbury Motors has the leader of the pack, the 2019 Ford 4x4 EcoSport, slashed to just $20,525. SMC would give these away, but they know you'd feel guilty. Take up to $9,000 off new 2019 Ford Edges, up to $10,000 off new Ford 2019 Fusions, and up to an amazing $12,000 off on new 2019 Ford Expeditions. That's a whole lot of amazing. Pick from over 65 new 2019 leftover F-150s with total savings up to $14,750 off MSRP on 4x4 Super Cruise. Feast on Sunbury Motors 2019 Ford leftovers by November 30th before they're all gone. Sunbury Motors in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, proudly serving all of Central PA for 105 years. Gobble, gobble, hey.
I'm Marcia Moore, and this is the Daily Items One-on-One with Michael Dixon. Your title, Michael, if you would get it, is the Chief Inclusion
and Diversity
Officer. You've been in the position for a few weeks now.
Yes.
And you've been in the area for just a few weeks.
Yes.
How are you finding Selinsgrove?
I'm finding Selinsgrove to be very similar to the last place that I lived at.
And where were you working before?
I was working at Manchester University in North Manchester, Indiana. It's about 35 minutes west of Fort Wayne.
You say it's a similar school?
Similar school. Manchester University is about 1,200 students.
Okay.
Susquehanna is about 2,200 students. But the town, North Manchester, is about 6,000 residents. And what I understand Selinsgrove to be is about 5,300 residents. So it's a rural town in a rural area. So similar.
And what were you doing there? Wait, let's talk about the job that you hold. What are the responsibilities? What are your goals, and what's your focus here at Susquehanna?
Sure. So I understand my role to be a very high level, looking at things at a very high level. When I was at my previous role, it was a combined effort between working directly with students and doing some high level work. Here, my focus is not going to be so much with the students, although the initiatives that I will be working on will be focused in a variety of areas, and one of those will be on the student experience.
Okay.
But the primary goals that were set forth by the President and Vice President for Human Resources really focus on faculty and staff recruitment and retention, as well as high-level initiatives that will combine efforts in various areas on campus.
And is there anything in particular that you're looking to do? I mean, obviously increase the diversity among the faculty and the staff. How do you go about doing that?
I'm
What's your
gonna
first?
have conversations with folks about their experiences living here. For some people, they don't mind living in a small town. They don't mind it's really about the experience that they have with their colleagues, and then how do you market that to ensure for other people who are looking at it to say, don't just look at things for face value. If you see that there's not enough people who look like you or might share your same experience, and you say, well, I don't know if I want to be there, like give it an opportunity where you can talk with folks, really understand what the experience is like, and then are there ways that people can take time to really understand what this place is about.
Well, you said you were speaking with some of the students about their experiences, and as I was mentioning to you earlier, there was a forum recently with university and town business people, and a couple of black students spoke up at that forum and said that they have had poor experiences downtown, which some of the panelists were shocked by that. What are you hearing from students at Susquehanna?
Sure. The students have explained to me that they do not feel comfortable going into town, and they don't feel comfortable going on what they call the Strip, which is, I believe, Hummel's Wharf / Schmokendale. I have yet to kind of dive deep.
So you don't know what the unease is? Have they talked about that?
They haven't said specifics like, I've been followed in the store, or I've received poor service, or that people have been screamed at and used names that are not their own name. If you understand what I mean.
You've heard that, or you have not heard that?
I have not heard
Okay.
that. But if they expressed that to me, that would not be a surprise,
Okay.
given demographics and kind of my own experience in being in towns very similar to Selinsgrove.
And like you said, Manchester was similar to this.
Yes.
So how do you go about, I mean, do you feel that that's your role or the role of the college to address these issues and work with, maybe the townspeople as well as the students?
Yes.
Is it education? How do you address it?
I liken it to it's relationship building.
Mm-hmm.
Like you've got to have a relationship with individuals in order to get them to hear what it is that you're saying. Even if you feel like your points are valid, if people don't understand you as a person, then they're not necessarily hearing the message that's coming across. One of the things that I worked at, at the previous institution is that I'd lived there 8 years,
Right.
and I lived in the same town.
Okay.
So people understood me as a person,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore could understand the message that I was trying to get across on behalf of the students who they see themselves as transient, where I saw myself as one of the members of the community as well as someone who worked at the university.
Are you living in Selinsgrove, the borough?
Currently, yes, I'm staying in temporary housing, but my plan is to stay here so that, again, I can have a more authentic experience
Right.
and then be a liaison between the university and the town.
And how did you do that in Manchester, and how will you do it here? I mean, because obviously relationship building is conversations,
Mm-hmm.
meeting with people. How will you bring these people together?
Well, you got to meet people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
So that means showing up to town events, talking with folks. Because what you realize, and what I've realized, is that there are a lot of commonalities and people who are connected to each other. You just don't know what those connections are. And so as you continue to go to events and be in that space, then you realize where the connections lie, and therefore, once you understand that and feel authentic about what you're trying to learn,
Right.
then I think that you'll be included in spaces and conversations that will then lead the conversation to where I think we should take it.
And all of that works together in terms of if the students are feeling like they're in a good space or a welcoming space, it's easier to recruit faculty and staff, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's all together.
It's all related.
Any programs that you had in Manchester that you think that you'd like to bring here that you think would work?
There are some programs that I don't know how well received they would be. I'm actually going to a conference this weekend.
Okay.
It's called the White Privilege Symposium.
Okay.
Now, by the title alone, people think, oh, it's White Privilege Symposium. Like, one, either if I was a white person, I don't have white privilege. I don't have privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a symposium that's focused on how do we continue that? No. The purpose of it is to understand what it is and how it manifests itself in various institutions. Both it could be college, it could be financial, in schools, in businesses, that sort of thing. And it's a symposium that can be in various places.
Okay.
So it could be at a school location, it could be at a college, university location, etc. And that was one of the initiatives I was trying to work on at the previous place. And I thought that I primed the pump enough to say I think that this place is ready for this type of conversation.
Right.
I just haven't been here long enough to understand what are things that Susquehanna is wrestling with, and will the town and the surrounding community view the institution differently if we're trying to address that conversation in a systemic and academic manner.
So you're just waiting, you're kind of feeling out the university, the environment to see what you're going to bring.
Yes.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. Can you talk about where you grew up and where you went to school?
Sure. So I was born in Jacksonville, Florida, on a naval base because my dad was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Marine Corps. We traveled around a lot, and so I would say that because we were transient my first 9 years of my life, I really didn't call any one place home until we got to North Carolina.
And name some of the places that you lived.
Sure. I lived in Florida for 3 years, lived in California for 3 years, lived in the Philippines at a naval base for 3 years, and then ended up in North Carolina in the early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent 15 years of my formative years in North Carolina.
And you were talking about your parents. Your mother is from the Philippines,
Yes,
and your father?
it's from Jamaica. And so growing up, I really didn't understand the nuances of having two parents that are not from the same culture, other than the fact that they look visually different.
Mm-hmm.
And then people would come over, friends would come over, and they'd say, "Your parents have accents," and I'm like, "Well, I don't believe they have accents. They sound normal to me."
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until I was separated from them, going to graduate school, undergraduate, and then graduate school, and then talking with them on the phone, that I would later understand, there might be an accent here.
That's right. How did your family and your background inform what you're doing now?
So understanding that I have a biracial background, but people view me as a black male. They treat me as such, and so there's a theory that not a psychologist, someone who's done some work on in some theories, particularly college student development. It's called the theory of nigrescence, and so it's black identity development and understanding that for some people, they move through different phases where, like at the very beginning, they may negate or denounce the fact that they're black, and then they move through a period of like pro-blackness. Like everything they want to do is black. They just want to hang around black people and do black things, whatever that means. And at some point, they kind of rest in between of not negating it, but then not being pro-black. And I know that I went through a phase of that, but then also trying to understand that the fact that my mother is not black, and I have these different sets of values that are interacting on me in addition to this blackness. And so that was a very eye-opening experience for me during my undergraduate years because there were things that I would do that didn't really sit in well with black students, and so they never really understood, why I do certain things. And I said, well, I'm still black at the end of the day, even if I don't do things that stereotypically black people do. So when I think about kind of my own experience, it's been a journey to get to the point that I'm at now, and even now I still feel like there are forces acting on me that I don't necessarily feel that are congruent with how I define myself.
Well, where are you at now?
So I've lived most of my adult life in very rural areas, and so again, I need to understand what it means to be a black individual in rural areas with a multiracial background. And so I'm constantly trying to push the conversation. When people see things from a black-white paradigm, I have to say, well, there are other people who live within this paradigm, so we're not just monoracial.
Right.
And then particularly for myself, who is not monoracial, so then what does that mean for me? And then how is my experience similar and or different from those who look like me?
And that, having that kind of background, do you think you understand some of the issues from a different perspective and can help people understand the issues that the challenges that they're facing?
Yes. So when students tell me about their experiences in town, I can say I can relate to that experience because I may have also been treated in a similar manner.
Right.
But on the other hand, I also say, what are some environmental factors that could have led to that situation? So not victim blaming, but not always ready to play the race card, as some people like to say.
Right.
And so you just have to sit back, and again, from a philosophical background, I'm always questioning, how things could have played itself out, and if the situation were to happen slightly different, maybe in a different context, not at that same time, would it still have played itself out, and how many times does something need to happen in order for people to believe like this actually happened?
Hey you, it's time for Sunbury Motors to eat their remaining 2019 Ford leftovers. Choose from over 20 of the hot-selling Ford Escapes for as low as $17,585. Love compact SUVs? Sunbury Motors has the leader of the pack, the 2019 Ford 4x4 EcoSport, slashed to just $20,525. SMC would give these away, but they know you'd feel guilty. Take up to $9,000 off new 2019 Ford Edges, up to $10,000 off new Ford 2019 Fusion, Fusions, and up to an amazing $12,000 off on new 2019 Ford Expeditions. That's a whole lot of amazing. Pick from over 65 new 2019 leftover F-150s with total savings up to $14,750 off MSRP on 4x4 Super Cruise. Feast on Sunbury Motors 2019 Ford leftovers by November 30th before they're all gone. Sunbury Motors in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, proudly serving all of Central PA for 105 years. Gobble, gobble, hay.
Thanks for watching One on One. Be sure to catch all the latest editions at dailyitem.com.